Hello everyone, back again. I will continue our last lesson, which is still about how to teach vocabulary or teaching vocabulary for the second language acquisition. Okay. So this is the 3.3 one word store or two in the L2 user's mind. So this is about how you store your language, how you store your vocabularies of your first language and your second language in your mind. Okay, so it's about how you store them, how you store the words. Okay, so here, based on our book, we have four kind of storing here. The first one, we have the separate stores. The vocabulary of the second language is kept entirely separate from that of the first. An English person who learns the word libre in French keeps it separate from the English word free. Okay, so here you're going to separate your words, your first language words, vocabularies, from your second language vocabularies. So in your mind you have two kind of stores. The first store is for your first language and the other one is for your second language. So what is this all about? What is this stores all about, sir? Why do we have to learn this? Well, later on you will find out. Okay, so we just continue. The second one, L2 store dependent on L1 store. L2 store dependent on L1 store. So second language store dependent on the first language store. In this kind of store, you still do the separate store. However, there is a link between your second language and your first language. So in the first one, there is no link between them. No link between them. So when you try to speak in English, you just do the second language store, and when you try to speak in Indonesian, you just do the first language store. So there is no connection between them. You don't do like translation in your mind to speak in English or Indonesian by um by looking from the other store. Like when you want to speak in English, then you will consult the Indonesian store. No, not like that. You just do your second language store, and when you try to speak Indonesian, you just do the first language store, like that. While in the L2 store dependent on L1 store, when you try to speak in English, you will try to consult your first language. Like when you try to speak in English with your friends, firstly your first language will come into your mind, and then you do the translation, and then you speak in English to them. So that's how the L2 store dependent on L1 store works. While the separate store, there is no link. You master your own store for your language that you want to speak, like that. And the third, the overlapping stores, there is an overlapping system, so that some words are shared, some not. Some words are shared, some not. Overlapping stores. As its name, as its name, these stores are overlapping each other. Okay, so the first store overlap the other, like that. So you still have two kind of stores, but they are overlapping each other. And the problem here is when you try to speak in English, sometimes you will do both language. So when you try to speak in English with someone, you sometimes do both of them, or when you try to speak Indonesian, you sometimes do the English too. Like this is mostly us Indonesian do in our daily life. Well, some maybe because of they don't have enough knowledge about English, but some it's because they do the overlapping stores. It's like when you do how to say like when you combine your Indonesian and English to speak to someone. This is the kind of overlapping stores. But it's different if it is because of you do not have plenty of knowledge of how to speak in English. It's different. Okay, this is about the people who do the overlapping stores in storing their first language and second language words or vocabularies. And then we have the single store here. There is a single overall word store for both languages. French, Libre, and English Free are stored together. So it's different between others. This one is different between the others stores. Okay, this single store only has one store for both first language and second language. So you store all of your languages, all of your words, both in the first language and the second language in only one store. In only one store. So the problem in overlapping stores might also happen in this single store. The problems in overlapping stores might also happen in this single store. So what's the difference? What's the difference between overlapping stores and single store? The difference is like what I said before. The overlapping stores, it's for people who has lack knowledge about the meaning of the words, like the lexical meaning of the words, or they don't have plenty knowledge about the words or vocabularies they want to speak. It's like the example here. The word libre in French might be associated with English free, liberty, or liberal. Then it's already out of context when you do the word libre with liberty and liberal. But libre with free, yes, it's the same. So it's kind of when you try to say when you say students in Indonesia is siswa, and then you associate siswa with mahasiswa. Of course, yes, they both pelajar, but in different kind of level. That is when you do the overlapping store. While the single store, you have plenty knowledge about the meaning and the way to use the words. However, sometimes you still do the combining the Indonesian, the first language and the second language in your speaking because you do the single store. Sometimes it will be difficult for your brain to put it together when you want to speak only in second language or in the first language. It's a bit difficult because you only have single store. But it won't be trouble. It won't be trouble for the separate stores, and also the auto store dependent on L1 store. It won't be trouble, especially for separate stores. There's no trouble in mastering the second language. Okay, so that's it. Most of us Indonesian, we do the overlapping stores or the single store. Most of us do the overlapping stores. That's the problem. Why we difficult to master the English. But it's not only our problem Indonesian. It also happens for the students or for people around the world. They do the overlapping stores. That is the main trouble or the main problem of the second language acquisition. However, here you learn about this. It means that you are to do better in your teaching of second language acquisition. So how do you how to teach the students and to make them remember the vocabularies by doing the separate stores? That's a simple but difficult question. It is a simple question but difficult. How to make them do the separate stores, not doing the overlapping or the single store? Well, if you want them to speak in English, it is better to teach them English by you speak to them by using English. It's like the full English day. Yeah, the full English day is one way to do the separate stores. It is a one way to do the separate stores. And when you try to teach them the Indonesian, you do only Indonesian. It is one way. Well, there are more strategies. We will talk about it more in this meeting. And also for the L2 store dependent on L1 store, this is the problem of you when you try to push your students to memorize some kinds of vocabularies. Like when you give them list of vocabularies, like a 20 vocabularies, let's say, to 20 vocabularies of English, and then you ask them to remember the 20 and also the meanings. Well, you will do the L2 store dependent on L1 store kind of students. So when they try to speak in English, they will try to consult the Indonesian first, and then they translate into the English into the second language, and they will do the English, and then they will do the speaking. Well, it's a bit difficult to make them speak in English fast, or in a short period of time. It will be difficult to make them speak in English, but it is better than doing the overlapping store, of course, or the single store. But if you can do the something like a full English day, it will be more better. Or if you can make the language environment, the English environment in your environment, it will be a lot better. Okay, and we move to the next page. The next page here. Here we have figure 3.1, different ways of storing the vocabulary of two languages in the mind. So the first, here we have the separate L1 and L2 stores. L2 stores dependent on L1 store, overlapping L1 and L2 stores, single L1 and L2 stores. So in the first one, separate first language and second language store. Here you have the second language store, and here you have the first language store. So you have different kind of store for each language. This is the best one, I think, and also they think. Okay, so you may have your own thing about this. You may have your own opinion about this. It's up to you, and you may consult me later. Okay, and this is the L2 store dependent on L1 store. This is when you do teaching vocabulary by using translation and memorizing. Okay, so the students will try to consult the first language before they do the speaking in the second language. Well, they will speak slowly, because in their mind there is a lot of process, like consulting the first language firstly, and then translate into the second language, and then they think about how the grammar works, and then they will start to speak to you in English. And this is the overlapping L1 and L2 store. See, you still have different store of language between the second language and the first language. However, they are overlapping each other. Okay, while this one, you have only one store for both languages. This is a trouble, actually. Okay, so that's it. And then there is some explanation here. I think you better read that by yourself. Okay. Please wait. Yeah, I've got a little bug here in my laptop. Okay, here we go again. Uh-huh. We're back again. So here, you may read all of the information here. Box 3.4, words in the L2 user's mind. The L1 and the L2 sets of vocabulary in the L2 user's mind may be related in various ways, ranging from completely separate to completely integrated. Research suggests that in many cases the two vocabulary stores are closely linked. So based on research, they suggest that you do the L2 store dependent on L1 store. There is a link between them. Well, they are researcher. This is the 3.4 types of meaning. Types of meaning. So this is the types of meaning when you try to mastering second language acquisition, or the vocabulary. In the specific form, it is the vocabulary, the types of meaning. So here we have the components of meaning. I think you just read this, yeah. You just read this. It's quite good explanation here. I think you should read this. And then there is a lexical relation. This is the relation of how you relate one word to another word, which actually has a relation. Like here, example, the meaning of hot relates to cold, of course, yes. The meaning of run to walk, yes, and etc. Okay, and then there is here prototypes. So what is prototypes? I think for the lexical, I think you know about this. Lexical is about the meaning, of course, yes. And then we have lexical relation and components of meaning. You just read this. It's about lexical relation and so on. So, and here we have the prototypes. Prototypes is like when you talk about furniture, then what you think will be about table, chair, and so on. When you think about bird, you will learn about, you will think about sparrow, robin, and so on. When you think about fruit, you will think about apple, strawberry, melon, and etc. It is for the basic level terms. And for the subordinate terms, you will think about more how to say, more advanced, yeah, more advanced, yeah, more complicated, like that. Like when you think about furniture in subordinate terms, you will think about coffee table, armchair. When you think about bird, the field sparrow, and etc. So this is about the prototypes. There is also another book that deal with this kind of subject, prototypes. You can search it in Google, like by entering the name of this one, Eleanor Roost's prototype theory 1977. You will find like a book or a journal there. You can read that for more information, of course. But in short, it's like what I just said. You can just see the table 3.2, and actually you already get the basic knowledge of this prototypes thing. And then here are meanings universal. Here are meanings universal. So far as meaning is concerned, the interesting question that has been raised over the years is whether speakers of all languages possesses the same concepts despite variation in the words used to express them. So, are meaning universal? Well, yes, it is universal, but also it is flexible. Okay, so meanings are not only universal but also flexible. Okay, it is universal, like this one. The well-known example is how people see colors. Languages have rather different color vocabularies. Greek, Italian, and many other languages have two blue colors, where English people see only light blue and dark blue. Japanese has names for colors that to an English eye are either in between two colors or are different shades of the same color. Original research showed that language could be arranged on a single scale. So here, Danny Wells to Navajo Humani. Okay, this is I think this is too far for you. So basically, this is about how you put meaning in your concept of mind. So meaning in languages is universal. Yes, it is universal. So when you speak about the color, like blue is in English, and then biru in Indonesian. Actually, it depends on, it shows what one kind of meaning. It shows one kind of meaning, that is the color. Okay, so the word blue and biru both points in the one kind of thing, one kind of color. So the meaning is the same. Okay, even though the word different, but the meaning is still universal. But again, you need to understand that language is flexible. It can be changed. It is changed over the time. So when you speak that blue is biru in Indonesian or biru is blue in English, The word may change, but the meaning, it cannot be changed. So the meaning is universal. However, the words, the form, it it is flexible. They are flexible. Okay. The meaning is universal, but the form is flexible. 3.5 strategies for understanding and learning vocabularies. Vocabulary. So this is the most important thing of you learning how to teach vocabulary, teaching vocabularies. Strategies for understanding and learning vocabulary. Focusing questions. If you meet a new word, how do you go about finding out its meaning and remembering it? How do you use a dictionary in your second language, in your first? False friends, words that are more or less the same in two languages but have different meanings. Ways of remembering and blah 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 and so on. So we jump to the here it is. Vocabulary learning task. This is a task that you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. Okay, you may not do that. Okay. Strategies for understanding the meaning of words. Okay, this is it. Strategies for understanding the meaning of words. So here are some strategies, some ways for understanding the meaning of words. The meaning of words. It's more about how you use words, how you understand the context of the language in the way of speaking, listening, reading, or writing. Like that. The first one we have guess from the situation or context. The situation is sitting at a restaurant table. The person is stranger. What could the sentence be? Are you waiting for somebody? Can I borrow the mustard? Could I borrow this chair? And blah blah and so on. So guessing from the situation or context. Sometimes um, when you meet a question in English, where let's say when you speak to someone, maybe you don't understand some of the words. However, by using guessing, by thinking about the situation or context of the speaking or the situation of how you speak to them, you can understand the meaning of the other speaks to you. So it's not all about how you really understand all of the meaning of this of the other speaker try to speak to you, no, or the other speaker words. It's not about how you really understand word by word about what they say. It's not like that, but you can also try to guess by thinking about, by considering about the situation or context of the speaking. And it also can be done when you try to answer some questions. It's like reading sections or like the TOEFL test. It can be done also. So that is why you really need to master this one. You can do this one, I mean, in the speaking when you try to speak to others, guess from the situation or context. So when you don't know the meaning of what they say, sometimes you can just guess from the situation or context. And then here we have another one, I think. Yes, this is using a dictionary. Use a dictionary, of course. Yes, you can do this, but I think this is how to say, this is less appropriate. Yeah, I think this is less appropriate. This is not um I don't suggest you to do this. Yeah, especially when you try to speak to someone in speaking or listening. In listening, yes, you can do that. In speaking, of course not. This is not something that I suggest you to do using a dictionary. Why? Because yeah, how you speak to someone while you hanging your dictionary, it will be a bit awkward, right? Or maybe people will think that it will be difficult to communicate to you, and they will not try to speak to you at all. Okay, and that's a problem. That's a trouble, of course. So when do we use a dictionary? You may use a dictionary when you try to do listening, of course, not in active speaking, of course, not in active speaking, in daily speaking. No, of course. When you try, maybe you're listening to a music, to a song, and you try to find out the meaning by consulting your dictionary. Yes, you can do that. Or maybe when you watch a movie without a subtitle, or with a subtitle but in a second language subtitle, in English subtitle, while you are an Indonesian first language, you may consult your dictionary, of course. And also when you try to do writing, when you try to write a letter for your boss or for your friends, by doing your second language, by writing with your second language, of course, yes, you can use dictionary, but not for speaking. Also for reading, when you read certain books, or when you read certain novels, a novel which the words are difficult for you, or you don't know the meaning, yes, you may consult your dictionary, but not in daily speaking. Okay, so this is not, I don't suggest you to do this in your daily speaking. Here we have kinds of dictionary. Choosing which type of dictionary, there is inevitably a question of choosing which type of dictionary to use. So based on this book, there are some kinds of dictionary in the way of the use. Okay, the way of the use. Okay, so there are three kinds. The first one, monolingual. The second one, reception, and the third, corpus based. The monolingual dictionaries versus translation dictionaries. So if you believe that the word source of the two languages must be kept distinct in the mind, you will go for monolingual L2 dictionaries. If you believe blah 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 and so on. So monolingual dictionaries, it's like when you buy a dictionary, a book of dictionary. Okay, that is the monolingual. It is like a translation dictionary, word to word dictionary, without considering when to use it, without considering the situation of using it, without considering the context of using it. While the second one is the reception dictionary versus production dictionaries, such as language activator, another book, yeah, another book, you may find it in Google. Production dictionaries permit one to hand for the precise word to express something one wants to say. Okay, production dictionaries permit one to hand for the precise word to express something one wants to say. If you decide to talk about your ideas, example, your ways of saying that a person causes problems, best expresses what you want to say, a version of this is fine. So when you try to do the reception, yes, you will try to think about how you use the words or the word in the situation you want to, in the situation you are involving in. Okay, so it's it's about how you use the words based on the manner. Okay, this is more, suggestible. Yeah, I suggest you to do this than the monolingual, of course. And then the corpus based dictionaries, such as co-built versus example based dictionaries, such as OED. Traditional dictionaries such as OED depend on collecting a large sample of words from many sources, including other dictionaries. Some dictionaries having and blah 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 blah. Hair illness like a very bad cough in which your bronchial tubes become sore and affected. On definition gives unaccurate medical information. The other suits a lay person's understanding. So corpus-based dictionaries, it is the specific dictionaries, like dictionary used for people who learn English for specific purposes. Yeah, and also in this kind of dictionaries, you are taught of how you use the word in the way it should be used. It is a bit same with the reception dictionaries. However, the corpus-based dictionaries has much more explanation of how the word used. Okay, it can be, it is, if you ever open the dictionary of the thesaurus, it is one kind of corpus-based dictionaries, like what I have here. Like what I have here. Mm, so this one, this is the dictionary. Well, if we divide them into the three of them, if we have to choose between the three of them, this one is the kind of, corpus-based dictionaries. So in this in this dictionary you can find much about the word you want to find. Like when I try to find judge here, I click this one here. So there is an example of what kind is it, what is judge, and also the pronunciation in the UK and the US. And also there is a small thesaurus, like when I click it, see, judges and juries. There is another, it should be better if you connect this into internet firstly, and then they will find out what they can find in the word judge. And also there is a way of how to write this in the how to say phonetic transcription also, and also the kind of word in the part of speech, or it is a noun, and also it can be used as a verb here. See, it can also use in the intransitive or transitive verbs, and also the example of how you use it. Okay, so this is the kind of the corpus based dictionaries. Okay, so I close this one. That's it, and we move to the next. The next strategy is making deductions from the word form. Okay, we have two here. Making deduction from the word form. This one is like when you don't know the word, yeah, when you don't know the meaning of the words, you can do this one. It's like when I said before, the word siswa and mahasiswa has the same meaning, which is pelajar, which is student. In English, mahasiswa and siswa can be put in the one word, which is student, or in the further in the further translation you can do the students or academic students for mahasiswa. However, it's still the word student, and also in mahasiswa and siswa there is still siswa in mahasiswa. So this is the deductions. Okay, so when you don't know what is mahasiswa, like when you are an English person, you come into Indonesia and you hear some people saying about mahasiswa, while you only know about siswa, but you don't know about mahasiswa. But when you do deduction, then you will try to guess that siswa is a bit the same with mahasiswa. Okay, so that's how deductions do. Okay, and then link to cognates. Yeah, link to cognates. Link to cognates. It's like here we have example. Many languages have words that are similar in form, particularly if the languages are closely related. Okay, many languages have words that are similar in form, particularly if the languages are closely related. English chair versus French chase, or English day versus German tag. Okay, so the meaning is the same, but and also the words is a bit the same. Like when if you ever heard the word, of course you ever heard this one, photo and photo. Okay, so Indonesian always say the picture as photo, while the English always say in English it is photo. It's almost the same, right? So this is linked to cognates. And also another example, like when you want to say this one, yeah, this one. When in English this is a cable, yeah, cable, cable, or also you can do the translation. It is wire, wire. While in Indonesian you also name them as wire and also kabel. So it's almost the same, right? Wire and wire, kabel and cable. It's almost the same. So this is linked to cognates. Okay, you can find another sample like guitar and guitar. Okay, there is so many. Okay, and then here strategies for acquiring words. This is how you acquire words. This is the ways of you acquiring new words actually, yeah, in the second language acquisition. So in acquiring words here means that how you acquire words in the second language. Yeah, it is one thing to be able to work out the meaning of a word on one occasion. It is another to remember the word so that it can be used on future occasions. Some of the strategies that learners use are set out below. The first is repetition and rote learning. The commonest approach is perhaps so repetition and rote learning. Yes, I believe you already understand about repetition, of course, yeah. And also another one is organizing words in the mind. So organizing words in the mind. Organizing words in the mind. Much teaching of vocabulary implies that the effective way of learning vocabulary is to organize the words into groups in our mind. Hence, we saw course books using vocabulary set even when Ross works suggest this is not the normal way to learn. Tells the student lesson to blah 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 and blah blah blah. You just read this, okay? This is already enough to explain this one. Organizing words in the mind. Okay. It's like when you try to add new words, yeah, to your students' mind, new vocabularies of the second language acquisition of the second language into their mind when they have learned about some new words of verb. Yeah, so you organize the words. Firstly, you teach them about the new vocabularies of verbs like read, listen, speak, and then write, and so on. Yeah, work, and so on, and many more of verbs. But and also and then it will be a lot easier to teach them another vocabularies that relate to the words that they have learned before. Like when you try when you finish teaching them the verbs, then the second day, the next day, try to teach them the new words of the organization of noun. So how you change the verbs into noun, like the other day you teach them about the write, and then the next day you teach them about writer. So you teach them that adding er at the end of the word to the end of the word of the verb that you have learned before, it will change the meaning into the noun. That is, menulis or write becomes penulis or writer. So you just need to add er. Like work becomes worker. Like listen becomes listener. Like speak becomes speaker, and so on. Sing becomes singer, and so on. So this is how organizing words in the mind works. Okay, and then linking to existing knowledge. Linking to existing knowledge. This is also already done. Like what I said before, when you teach about the verbs last meeting, and then you do the other meeting about something that is still related to the last meeting subject, then you already do linking to existing knowledge. Okay, but this is also can be done by doing something other. Like, I think you better read this one by yourself, it will add your knowledge better. Okay, but basically I have explained it before. Okay, yeah, so much explanation here. Box 3.7 vocabulary strategies to understand and familiarize to words like second language word. People make use of a variety of strategies such as guessing using dictionaries, deducing meaning from the word's form, and relating it to cognates. To acquire new L2 or second language words, people use strategies such as repetition, organizing them in the mind, and linking them to existing knowledge. Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all for today, I think. Yeah, I think that's all for today. We will do the last topic here next meeting. So that's all for today. Thank you for your attention. Make sure you read again what we just learned. Okay, so make sure you read again what we just learned today. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like. Yeah, don't forget to like. Don't forget also to subscribe. Thank you.